when we start moving rocks horizontally, what we need to understand is the Great Pyramid may not be as great a construction project as it is a mobilization project. And mobilization means we have to move the material to the site. In order to move the material to the site, we need horizontal rock movement technology, which may seem simple, but it's actually quite clear. You have to get the material there. If I can show you how to get the material there, I can show you how to get it up there. And what we see, and I use aerials, I encourage you to look at the aerials we have online at our website, and or go to Google Earth, and as you examine the pyramid, Great Pyramid Plaza from above, we notice that three sides of the Great Pyramid are unapproachable for building materials. The north side, which is to the river, again, as I've stated many times, is material for you to understand this. The base of the Great Pyramid is approximately 100 to 115 feet higher than the base of the Sphinx, which is kind of to the north. Means they would have to lift them vertically 10 stories just to get them on the plateau. And I submit to you they probably did not. When we look to the west side, there are structures and impediments and a lot of sand. And there's no material that would have come from that direction, so the west side approach does not look favorable either. As we look to the south side is where we find the boats buried in the sand, but there's nothing but sand all the way to Libya. There's no rock source readily available to the south of the pyramid. So it kind of rules the south side, west side, and north side out as approach paths, because we actually have a staging area for our construction. So as we look at the aerials that I share with you, the best approach path is the east side, which actually has a lime rock face, a solid foundation to walk on, and there are some unique structures on the east side. As we look at the eastern face of the pyramid, there are actually rock paths sculpted out that ascend the plateau. The concept of sleds and slaves is probably put forth by people who have never been there. Has to be, because as I show you in the pictures, it's an absolute natural understanding how they moved the stones. Because what we have are these paths, and there's multiples of them. They all converge, seemingly, at the mid-body point of the east side of the Great Pyramid. Since so many people focus on the rock pile and not the holes around the structure, I felt there would be great revelation discovered by going and exploring the holes around the structure. As we discover, there are 3 oblong holes large enough to bury 2 double-wide mobile homes end to end in each one. And they form a T on the eastern side. In the middle of the T, right here, and you can see this from my aerials, there is a hole, it's approximately 30 foot by 30 foot square, called the Witan Cavity. Named it after myself since no one else claimed it. It's 60 to 70 foot deep. Meanwhile, from the Witan Cavity, we see these striations or paths that lead away, which are actually paths that lead to. The dilemma I ran into was, why do we have these obvious rock paths to where they would have tumbled stones end over end? Because along the path, we see the base of a stone, base of a stone, base of a stone. And the path between these base stone sizes is curved from one to the next, one to the next. And we find there are actually stones laying there today. I find it somewhat humorous that people can go and not see. We can have sleds, but we have no evidence of sleds. Yet we have these stones that lay between these holes that demonstrate that the rocks are the distance between the holes. And we can see that, like a seesaw pattern, if we tumbled it end over end over end over end, it's a far easier way to move a stone. possibly the invention of the wheel, because the rounded portion allowed them to roll the rock over a fixed object. Funny thing, the wheel may have been virtually useless in the desert because of sand and rocks and other things. But if you created a series of rounded turning points between bases of stones, you could flip stones end over end. Interesting thing is, there are stones today that are the right size, the right length, and we can see that all the holes are very close proximity to the same distance apart, and it fits. It works perfectly, but there's multiple paths, and they're all very similar. So all we would have to do is find stones that were similar size and shape, and or adjust them in some way to be the similar size and shape, and we could just tumble them in over and over in. There's a very nice presentation online demonstrated that a 300-pound stone can be just flipped by hand, and it will roll uphill quite readily with this type of design. And I can share that with you if need be. The interesting thing is, all of these paths converge at the Witan Cavity on the eastern side, eastern mid-body side. And this had our researchers stumped for a period of time, because we realized if stones were brought in from afar to a central point, we would actually have a pyramid. But why would they converge at a hole? And as I demonstrate, the Witan Cavity is actually a heavy lift crane, because why would you dig a big hole at the eastern mid-body that deep? Meanwhile, if you filled it with a wooden piston, as demonstrated, and this is going to take some getting used to because you've never seen it before, filled it with water, the piston would lift several tons. And this is one way they lifted the large stones to the height of the plateau, doing away with all your ramps and everything else, because the central lift is right there.